A place like this is not where anyone would ever dwell. If somebody did, they would have to be an adrenaline addict or someone as depressed as this area. Henry, don't say things like that in front of the guests. I was staying at the Irving Inn when a derisive chuckle reverberated across the hallway. The man named Henry gave Rebecca, the innkeeper, a scornful glance and a sneer. Visitors? Ha, Rebecca, no one is here. This is the best you can do with your alleged abilities. This is your reality, so face it. Henry exited after hurling his comments, laughing loudly and contentedly, obviously enjoying Rebecca's expression of annoyance. As Rebecca stood there, her beloved inn being cruelly attacked, her hands trembled a little. It's all over. I had only been here a few days, yet I could already feel their suffering. No, it's not finished yet. Trust me, I'll take care of it. A few months later, my life and the lives of everyone else connected to Irving Inn were going to undergo a significant transformation. Because in actuality, my true identity is Samuel is my name. I am employed at a renowned hotel in the city as a concierge. Providing service with genuine warmth is my driving principle. I was continuously instructed to provide hospitality from the viewpoint of the guest by the senior employee who was in charge of my training at the hotel. I now mentor my juniors in the same manner as before that training. But ever since Mr. Keller became the new manager a few years ago, efficiency and profit have been more important. His methods cause a lot of people to depart. The majority of those who are left now support Mr. Keller's initiatives. I was a total oddity in that setting because I opposed Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller's push for irrational actions in the name of business caused me to argue with him today once more. It was obvious that he had had enough of my persistent difficulties over the years. If you can't follow my way, you're welcome to leave any time, he said. The management strategy would remain the same regardless of what I stated. There was not a single ally at work. Above all, I found Mr. Keller's disrespect for both staff and visitors intolerable. So I walked out of the motel. Remaining there would simply distance me from my principles and enthusiasm. I had no regrets regarding my departure. Still, it evoked some melancholy to leave a location full of memories after all these years. I made the decision to travel in order to decompress. When I had free time, I would travel to different places, both domestic and foreign, to study and unwind. I chose traditional Japanese inns more frequently than not because they provided a welcome alternative to the typical hotel setting. I visited the website of an inn I had been eyeing for a while. Surrounded by nature, enjoy a moment of tranquility at Irving Inn. The webpage showcased tranquil photos of the inn, well-known hot springs, regional cuisine, and the stunning natural beauty of the area. I felt better just by glancing at the pictures. The pictures showed friendly, welcome grins on the faces of the innkeeper and staff. I had been watching Irving Inn since last year in the hopes of visiting and learning from them someday because of their stellar reputation for hospitality. I happily went through the booking process, anticipating my stay even though I was no longer employed. I reached the town where the Irving Inn was a few days later. The town has recently been growing as a tourist destination, drawing large crowds of visitors, particularly on weekends, which infuses the area with a vibrant spirit. Because the inn was tucked away in the highlands, the bustle eventually subsided as I got closer, giving way to the verdant trees and the sounds of rustling leaves and chirping. This brief trip was sufficient to give me a sensation of escape, and I found myself totally unwinding. When I arrived, I noticed a solid, well-constructed inn. Despite its rather dilapidated appearance, the architecture was rich in history and blended in perfectly with the natural surroundings. I was excited and grinning at the prospect of staying here for a few days. I moved slowly through the doorway and made my way to the front desk. But the employee who was standing there was so focused on the documents she was reading with great interest that she failed to notice my presence. I tried to grab her attention, a little bewildered. Oh, yes, a guest. I'm so sorry. Welcome to Irving Inn. The young woman at the desk bowed hurriedly, clearly flustered. She seemed new, as her speech and movements were a bit unsteady. While she sorted out my check-in, handling paperwork, and checking the computer, I looked around. The other staff members rushing past the entrance appeared equally busy. Their movements were a bit awkward, and a few looked like they might trip at any moment. A senior staff member was offering guidance, helping them with their tasks, yet no one seemed to notice me at the front desk. I thought this place was known for its hospitality, but this is a bit. I could feel their earnestness, which was endearing, but I wondered if I could truly relax in such a hectic atmosphere. As I was pondering this, a problem arose. What? The room I reserved is already occupied. I am terribly sorry. The young woman at the desk looked on the verge of tears, bowing repeatedly. It was a classic case of double booking. This is unexpected. I sincerely apologize. More than anger, I felt disappointment. I had been so looking forward to my stay. As the staff member kept apologizing, someone hurried toward us. I apologize sincerely for the inconvenience our oversight has caused. Recognizing her face from the website, I realized this was Rebecca, the innkeeper. The front desk staff must have alerted her as soon as the double booking was discovered. Despite hurrying over, Rebecca didn't appear the least bit flustered. Her neatly styled black hair had a beautiful luster, and she wore a refined lavender kimono that suited her perfectly. Her manner was gentle, with graceful gestures and refined language that made a strong impression. Is there any other room available? I was really looking forward to staying here, so I'd love to, if possible, I asked. At my request, she quickly moved to the front desk, checking the reservation status. I'm terribly sorry. All our rooms are booked for today, so we're unable to offer another room at this time, she replied. With that, Rebecca once again bowed deeply. The female employee standing next to her also followed Rebecca's lead, bowing along with her. Ah, I see. That's disappointing, I said. Rebecca's response deepened my disappointment, and I couldn't help but let my true feelings slip out. Seeing the obvious dejection on my face, Rebecca hesitantly spoke up to me. Considering it's a holiday, I expect nearby accommodations are likely fully booked as well. So, if you be willing, my home is just next to the inn. As an apology, we'd like to offer our unused guest house to you at no charge, along with full meals and service. I was taken aback by the unexpected offer. I hesitated about staying in a private residence, even if it was a guest house, and tried to refuse. But Rebecca insisted, saying, I can't bear to let a guest who was looking forward to staying here leave disappointed. The young woman at the desk also bowed multiple times, and I couldn't refuse. Wow, this room is amazing, I exclaimed. I'm glad you like it, Heather said. Since Rebecca had other guests to attend to, her daughter, Heather, showed me to the room. It was beautifully maintained, with a classic interior as lovely as the inn's rooms. Since it was right next to the inn, the view from the window was likely just as stunning as it would have been from an actual guest room. Since the guest house was a bit removed from both the main house and the inn, I didn't have to worry about noise or overhearing conversations. Heather, who had shown me to my room, explained the meal schedule, the hot springs hours, and other details. In her service, I could see traces of her mother, Rebecca. She answered my questions smoothly, with a warm smile and thoughtful gestures that put me at ease. Even as a fellow hospitality professional, I found Heather's service remarkable, with many things worth emulating. This made me wonder. Both Rebecca and her daughter Heather possessed such high-level service skills. So why did the other staff, especially the woman at the front desk, seem so inexperienced? Was it simply a lack of training, or were they all new hires? Either way, the disparity in staff skill levels was so wide that it risked leading to disappointing reviews for the inn. Lost in thought, I realized Heather had finished her explanation. Once again, I apologize for today's inconvenience. I hope you'll enjoy your stay here, and please let us know if there's anything we can do to make it even better, she said. Her radiant smile, full of warmth, left me momentarily speechless. Are you all right? Heather looked up at me with a concerned expression. She seemed about my age, with a youthful face and large, sparkling eyes that shone in the sunlight. Her gaze made my face grow warm. Oh no, I'm fine. Actually, I'm really looking forward to both the hot springs and the food, I said. Thank you. As you can see, our inn is surrounded by mountains, so our menu is mainly focused on local delicacies like wild vegetables, mushrooms, and river fish caught nearby. Our chef's dishes are all delicious, so please enjoy as much as you can. Oh, and of course, our hot springs are one of our prides too. The salt in the water is great for your skin and helps relieve fatigue, so please take your time relaxing in it. Perhaps due to her enthusiasm, her words lost some of their earlier formality and became a bit more casual. Normally, using such language with a customer would be a no-go, but from Heather's attitude, I could sense her dedication to learning about the inn, and above all, her genuine affection for it. Not only was Heather unstoppable in her talking, but I also found myself smiling naturally as I listened. Oh, I'm so sorry. I got so caught up in talking that I completely left you behind. Once I start talking about the inn, I just can't stop, even though my mom scolds me about it all the time, Heather said, looking down with her face turning red with embarrassment. No, not at all. Hearing all that has made me even more excited about my stay. And I can tell how much you love this inn, so it really warms my heart. Do you plan to take over the inn in the future? I asked. She relaxed, her face softening at my words. Yes, I love this inn. It's a place very close to my heart. Right now, it's just my mom and me, but my grandparents and father used to work here too. I grew up watching my family and the staff work so hard. It's tough, of course, and as a kid, I sometimes felt lonely. But I'll never forget the look of happiness on their faces when they saw a guest smile. So I want to follow in my mom's footsteps and become a proper innkeeper who works with our staff to create a place where guests leave with genuine gratitude. That said, I still make lots of mistakes and get scolded by my mom and the senior staff all the time, she added with a bright expression, revealing her strong determination to inherit the inn. Watching her, I found myself speaking without thinking. You'll make a great innkeeper, Heather. Huh. Oh, I was just as surprised, I said, startled by my own words. Heather's astonished expression mirrored my own surprise. After exchanging glances, we both burst into laughter. Thank you. I'll do my best to make sure you're satisfied with your stay, she said with a final smile and a slight bow. Heather left the room, adding, Please don't hesitate to call if you need anything. Heather was in charge of most of my needs during my stay at the guest house. Each time she stopped by, she'd check if I needed anything, and casual conversations would often lead to laughter. Afterward, she'd hurry back to her duties. Just as Heather had promised, I thoroughly enjoyed the excellent food and relaxing hot springs. Now, stretched out on the prepared bed with my arms and legs spread wide, I sighed. Ah, this is perfect. I'm full. The hot springs were great. Enveloped in the warmth of the sun-scented duvet, I closed my eyes. Heather's smile came to mind. There was a warmth in her smile, as if she genuinely wanted to make guests feel welcome. Her presence was like spring sunshine, warming the heart. But thinking of that warmth made my heart race, and I felt a blush creeping up my cheeks. Heather, she is really something special, I muttered, relieved to be alone. Her smile flashed through my mind again and again. I wondered if I'd dream of her tonight. Feeling a bit embarrassed by my own thoughts, I pulled the duvet over my head, trying to hide from them. Before I knew it, I drifted off to sleep, still wrapped in thoughts of her. The next morning, I got dressed and enjoyed the breakfast delivered to my room. I planned to go sightseeing, so I headed to the inn staff for recommendations on nearby attractions and must-visit spots. As I'd arrived at the front desk, loud voices echoed through the quiet morning. What's going on here? I wondered aloud. My sincerest apologies, Rebecca said. The raised voices didn't fit the usual calm of the inn. It sounded like a complaint. Several staff members, including Rebecca and Heather, were bowing deeply before a guest angrily shouting his grievances. I've never stayed somewhere so unpleasant. I'm leaving now. The irate guest stormed past me, each step heavy with frustration. I considered saying something, but before I could decide, Rebecca noticed me watching and came over. I'm so sorry for the disturbance. Is there anything you need? She asked, her tone polite and gentle as always. But I could see traces of fatigue on her face. I know it's not my place as a guest, but what happened? I hesitantly asked. Rebecca hesitated for a moment before offering a troubled smile. We received a complaint from that guest just now. Apparently, he claimed he was placed in a subpar room, different from the one he reserved, and that the staff had been unhelpful and rude. However, after double-checking, we found no mistake with the reservation, and none of the staff members who attended to him behaved improperly. Strange incidents like this had been increasing over the past 6 months. Complaints about things like expired snacks in the room or the private bath being too cold. Some guests even claimed they got sick because of it, even though none of it was true. Guests had even walked out or canceled reservations at the last minute. Rebecca continued. Just recently, someone left a complaint on a booking site about food we don't even serve. Since then, our reservations have dropped significantly. Heather spoke up, and several other employees chimed in with their own accounts of suspicious occurrences. While such incidents occasionally happen in this business, the frequency over the past half-year was unusual. Could it be someone's harassing the inn? One of the staff whispered. Everyone fell silent. Glancing at Rebecca, I saw a shadowed expression on her face. I was about to say something when the door swung open with a bang. Everyone turned in unison. Oh my, what a gloomy atmosphere. It's like a funeral in here, a blatantly rude voice said. The tone made me bristle, but Rebecca immediately stepped forward to face the newcomer. Henry, what brings you here? She asked, her tone noticeably stiff. Another guest left again. How many times does that make it now? I've told you time and time again. You're not up to the task. I've heard all about it. The staff here are incompetent, and the service is abysmal. You're the one who's dragged this inn's once-praised reputation for excellent service through the mud, Henry said smugly. Rebecca listened quietly at first, but quickly countered with a firm tone. Henry, I won't tolerate insults toward our dedicated staff. They work hard for this inn and our guests. You, as an outsider, have no place to speak on this matter. Henry sneered and continued. Working hard isn't enough. Most of your staff are amateurs. You're understaffed and lack proper training. Who'd want to stay in a place like this? Training shortcomings are my responsibility, Rebecca replied. But even with a staffing agency, we can't seem to get new hires, which I suspect is because of the strings you've been pulling. Oh, Rebecca, don't make accusations without proof. It's because of this low standard and your inability to manage proper training that no one wants to work or stay here. You'd be better off shutting it down now and selling the land while it's worth something. Henry sneered again. Look around. Everyone else has sided with me. Only a few places remain in this area, yours included. Wouldn't want you and your daughter left out on the street now, would we? Ha ha. Hearing Henry's words, Heather let out a faint sound, her face pale. She must have only just realized the extent of the threat. Rebecca, standing face to face with Henry, maintained her resolute stance. But I could see her, clenched fists trembling slightly. Oh, the young lady wasn't aware. Rebecca's stubbornness is quite the bother. If she doesn't hand over this place soon, it'll delay my plans. But if you continue to be difficult, I might just resort to harsher methods. I have plenty of connections, you know. Watching him leer at Rebecca, I felt something snap inside me. His arrogant attitude, pushing his own agenda without any regard for others, reminded me of my former manager, Mr. Keller. Even though it had only been a day for me, I couldn't stand that Henry was trying to ruin Irving Inn and cause pain to Rebecca and Heather. Is that a threat? Should I go ahead and report your words to the police? Ha, and just who do you think you are? I jumped in suddenly, and it startled Henry. Samuel. Both Rebecca and Heather said my name in unison. I'm a guest staying here. I just happened to be around, but as I said, I could call the police right now and report your threats if that's what you prefer. I held my phone in my right hand and stepped toward Henry. You? Another guest still here. All right, fine, but make sure to have all the documents ready next time. Throwing out his parting words, Henry wiped sweat from his brow and hurriedly left with heavy, frantic steps. Once the door shut, the now silent entryway was filled with Heather's voice. Samuel, thank you so much. She took my hand as she spoke. Heather, really, I didn't do much. My words stumbled out, a mix of modesty and fluster at her holding my hand at that moment. Rebecca approached us. Samuel, thank you. You really helped us. Rebecca lifted her face and began to tell us the story. According to her, Henry had been pressuring her to give up this land for about a year. It seemed that as various business proposals aimed to boost tourism around the area, Henry's company joined in pushing for a large-scale plan to turn this whole area into a resort. With support from some influential backers, Henry grew bolder, targeting nearby inns and shops, including the Irving Inn, with relentless buyouts, using strong-armed tactics whenever necessary to acquire land. Unable to resist Henry's power, most nearby businesses had either closed or relocated, leaving only a handful, including the Irving Inn, still standing. Over the past 6 months, Henry's threats had become more intense. He seemed to have hired people to file fake complaints and orchestrate cancellations, shaking the inn's reputation in an attempt to force them out. Mom, why didn't you tell us about this? Did you think we weren't dependable enough? Hearing the truth from Rebecca, Heather's eyes welled up with tears. Rebecca, too, looked pained as she held Heather's hand tightly. Everyone, I'm so sorry. I just didn't want you to worry. I thought if I handled Henry myself, you could focus on taking care of our guests. But in the end, I only made you worry more. I'm sorry. I'm such an unworthy innkeeper. I'm so sorry. Her face was lowered, but the last words were spoken in a trembling voice. Heather and the other employees in the room were all disheartened, some softly crying. Maybe it's time to let go. At this rate, I'm just going to keep dragging everyone down. Rebecca whispered these words quietly. If this goes on, the Irving Inn will disappear. The inn Heather had hoped to carry on her dream would be lost. Hold on, please. Before I knew it, I had raised my voice. Everyone turned to look at me. It's a situation where the place they work might disappear in the near future. Everyone wore an expression of overwhelming anxiety. As I glanced at them, my gaze met Heather's, her cheeks wet with tears. Samuel. I nodded reassuringly toward her as tears gathered in her large eyes. Then I turned back to face Rebecca. Rebecca, I'm currently unemployed, but I used to work in a hotel. While my skills might be a bit different, I have experience and knowledge in hospitality. If you'd allow it, I'd like to help with staff training. Rebecca and Heather exchanged glances. You know, I was really looking forward to staying here, right? That's true, but there was another reason. I'd heard great things about the service here, and I really wanted to learn from it myself. I was thrilled to arrive, though I was surprised by the double booking and all. But I was genuinely impressed by your hospitality, yours and Heather's, and the dedication of all the staff. Despite fewer guests, you all still prioritize warmth and care. I knew this was a place I wanted to enjoy during my stay, and now I really don't want to see this inn disappear. I kept my true reason, not wanting Heather's dream to be crushed, to myself, but my desire to save the inn was genuine. Hoping my feelings would reach her, I looked directly at Rebecca. Then other staff members began to speak up. I don't want this place to close either. I'll keep working hard, so please, Rebecca, don't give up. Hearing these voices, Heather took Rebecca's hand. Mom, let's protect our home, okay? I'll work harder than ever. Let's all work together. We can't let someone like him win. The other employees joined in with words of encouragement, saying, We'll do our best. Moved by their words, tears fell from Rebecca's eyes. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, everyone. Rebecca closed her eyes for a moment, then looked straight at me. Her eyes were no longer filled with tears, but rather a determined, resolute strength. Samuel, I apologize for burdening you as our guest, but for the sake of everyone here fighting to save the Irving Inn, could we ask for your help? Samuel, please. Rebecca and Heather both bowed simultaneously. The other staff members followed suit, bowing as well. I may not be able to do much, but I'm one of those who want to protect the Irving Inn too. Please, let's work together. I bowed deeply as well, grateful to be part of this. From that moment, I became one of the allies supporting Irving Inn. With Henry's tactics likely to escalate at any time, we had to raise the inn's revenue to last year's level as quickly as possible. I signed a short-term contract to oversee employee training at the inn. Though hotels and inns have their differences, at the core, the spirit of hospitality and the question of what can we do for our guests remains the same. I focused on these principles during training, helped cover tasks where they were short-staffed, and gathered guest feedback to pass on to Rebecca. Of course, with a new level of expectations, some found it too challenging and left. Among those who left, some engaged in suspicious behavior, like deliberately being rude to customers or attempting to enter restricted areas. It makes me wonder if Henry had somehow been involved. This also suggests that the false complaints, reputation-damaging reviews, and sudden cancellations we've experienced might be part of Henry's influence as well. When I mentioned this to Rebecca, she replied, "It wouldn't surprise me. The dirty tactics he'd been using. There's no way we could lose to someone like him." For Rebecca, Heather, the staff, and everyone who loved this inn as much as I did, we had to reclaim its true reputation. We worked tirelessly together. Aside from training, I reached out to contacts from my previous job, gathering support and promoting the inn through travel bloggers and magazine writers. I knew the dedication to genuine, heartfelt service that I'd once been discouraged from practicing was now finally allowed to shine at Irving Inn. Seeing the guest smiles and the joyful faces of the trained staff filled my heart like nothing else had before. It was no exaggeration to say that these days were some of the most fulfilling I'd ever experienced. As 1 month, then 2 months passed, and as the tourist season approached, the reputation of Irving Inn not only returned but soared even higher. Guest feedback poured in saying, "We were so comforted by your hospitality, and it was the best experience. We'll be back." The stellar reputation from before was quick to rebound, faster than anticipated. Once we improved staff training and filled our ranks, sales also steadily recovered. Within just a few months, we achieved the same revenue as last year. On that landmark day, even the usually composed Rebecca was celebrating, embracing Heather and the team in joy. "It's all thanks to you, Samuel. You gave us the strength to keep going. Thank you so much." Heather's tearful gratitude warmed my heart. I was truly glad to have been able to help her. "Being able to work here with all of you has made me so happy." "Thank you," she said, struggling to hold back tears. I expressed my gratitude as well. Being able to pursue my ideal of heartfelt service here had truly become an irreplaceable experience in my life. I was endlessly grateful to everyone at Irving Inn for giving me this opportunity. But this wasn't the end. The harassment hadn't stopped entirely yet. Henry was likely still plotting to take over Irving Inn. We couldn't let our guard down. With guests pouring back in, the inn was lively and bustling once again. That afternoon, the gathering that had reserved the banquet hall came to an end. I needed to confirm something with Rebecca, so I headed over to the banquet hall where she was attending to guests. Then it happened. "Hey, where's Rebecca?" A man, accompanied by a group of large men in black suits, shouted loudly at the front desk staff. Thinking it might be trouble, I quickly rushed to the front desk. "Oh, Samuel." The staff at the front desk noticed me approaching and gave me a troubled look, silently pleading for my help. "Is there something I can help you with, sir?" I spoke up, but the man turned to face me. I recognized that face. Henry. "Pa, who the hell are you?" It seemed he didn't recognize me. There he stood, Henry, with his greasy, smug face. "Well, never mind. Hey, you, go fetch Rebecca. If you tell her I'm here, she'll come running," he said, giving orders with a condescendingly polite attitude. That demeanor remained as thoroughly unpleasant as ever. "Rebecca is currently attending to guests and cannot step away. If you have any business, I'd be happy to hear it instead, I replied. There were other guests present in the lobby. No matter how unpleasant this got, I maintained a polite demeanor. What did you say? Henry sneered. There's no guest here more important than me. Get her here right now. Henry, clearly displeased with my response, began shouting angrily. Other guests nearby started to stir, wondering what was going on. Sir, please keep your voice down. It's disturbing the other guests. Shut up. Are you trying to give me orders? Just because a few more customers came back, you think you're something special. If I really wanted to, I could crush this in no time. Henry laughed as he said this, and the men behind him stepped forward toward me. Like Henry, they wore smirks on their faces, cracking their knuckles as they approached. Were they really planning on causing a scene here in public? This seemed foolish beyond belief. I couldn't help but sigh. Just as Henry's anger peaked, a firm voice called out, "What's going on here?" Rebecca approached us. Seeing her, Henry's face twisted into a sly grin as he turned to confront her. So, you finally showed up. Ignoring all my calls lately, huh? I had to come down here myself now. Hand over those property deeds, he demanded. Since his last visit, Rebecca had ignored Henry's calls and managed to thwart his harassment attempts. It seemed his patience had finally run out. To show up on this day of all days, perhaps Henry's luck had run out. Rebecca responded unfazed with a resolute tone. Henry, as I've told you many times before, we have no intention of giving this land, which our family has protected for generations, to someone like you. And as my employee already mentioned, creating a scene here disturbs our guests. Kindly leave and do not come back. You acting all high and mighty just because I've been playing nice. Rebecca continued, consider yourself warned. I'll use force if I have to. With that, Henry's men stepped forward. Despite being faced with men far larger than herself, Rebecca held her ground, her gaze steady and unflinching. In that tense atmosphere, a calm, almost gentle voice suddenly broke through. Well, well, what a ruckus this is. All eyes turned toward the voice. Henry was the first to react. Mr. Sanders, an elderly man with a distinguished face and a well-kept beard, stood beside Rebecca. Though his tone was mild, his presence was commanding. Mr. Sanders was a powerful figure in the community, the chairman of a major construction firm responsible for most of the area's infrastructure projects. Even Henry, with his position in resort development, clearly knew who he was. Ah, Henry, was it? I hear you're looking to enter the local tourism business. My associates have mentioned as much. Taking this as encouragement, Henry launched into a lengthy self-praising explanation of his development plans. Once he finished, Mr. Sanders stroked his beard thoughtfully before responding. But you see, I've been a fan of the Irving Inn for many years, since the days of Rebecca's grandfather. I can't support a plan that would destroy such a fine establishment. Isn't that right, gentlemen? At his words, several others stepped forward. Seeing them, Henry's face turned pale. These were prominent figures from the local community. Today, coincidentally, the banquet hall was hosting a gathering of many influential people from the town. With Irving Inn's improved reputation, they had requested to rent out the banquet hall for their event. Henry, we heard every word you shouted earlier. Rumors have reached us, but it's something else to witness such underhanded tactics firsthand, don't you think? Though Mr. Sanders had retired from active work over a decade ago, his former strength as a leader who commanded a group of resilient men could still be felt in his every word and presence. Caught by Mr. Sanders' piercing gaze, Henry began to tremble uncontrollably. Seeing this, Mr. Sanders chuckled softly, then turned his gaze toward Rebecca. Rebecca met his gaze, nodded, and stepped forward to confront Henry. Henry, I've already discussed everything you've done here with these gentlemen. And not just on our behalf. Others in the area have also suffered your company's harassment. Even knowing this, do you still insist on taking our land? In response to Rebecca's words, the assembled local leaders nodded, each staring at Henry with unyielding eyes. Unable to withstand the pressure, Henry let out a pathetic squeal and fled outside. A few days later, with help from Mr. Sanders and other allies, Henry's various misdeeds came to light, just as we had suspected. All the harassment complaints and sudden cancellations that targeted Irving Inn and nearby businesses had been orchestrated by people hired by Henry. What's more, he had collaborated with certain members of the local tourism association and staffing agencies, using dirty tactics to apply pressure on anyone who didn't support his plan. Several former employees who had acted suspiciously at the inn were also planted by Henry, deliberately causing issues to damage our reputation. All of them ended up dealing with the police, and Henry's grand tourism plan was officially terminated. Some of the businesses that had been forced to close or relocate because of Henry were able to return. Though the scandal attracted media attention and stirred up the town, things eventually settled down, and a new, thoughtfully revised tourism development plan began to take shape. Fortunately, with Irving Inn having regained its former popularity, we were chosen to lead this new initiative, and the team's morale soared. As for me, Samuel, the guests in the Sakura room are asking for you. Understood. I'll be there right away. I had initially planned to leave after Henry's issue was resolved, but everyone at the inn had convinced me to stay. So I continued working here at Irving Inn. Heather, too, had begun her full training as a future innkeeper, now standing proudly alongside Rebecca as the face of the inn. And as for us, with Rebecca's blessing, Heather and I began a relationship with marriage in mind. Now, I often find myself being teased as the young master, but getting to see the smile that first captivated me up close fills me with happiness. Samuel, keep up the great work. Heather, or rather, the young innkeeper. The day I left my former job thinking of Irving Inn was purely by chance. Thanks to that, I found not only the perfect place to work, but also a beloved fiancé. Living true to one's principles is never easy, but knowing that I was able to help someone made all those challenging days worth it. From now on, I'll continue to uphold my belief in heartfelt service and support her by her side.